Hi, it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and I wanted to show you the Dutch edition of Maria Trolle's Vivi book that was released last year in Sweden as a Swedish edition, and now the Dutch edition has been released. So the Swedish edition had a paper cover on it, which always seemed odd to me because Blomster Mandala and the English edition Twilight Garden was released as a hardback, and it looked so much more attractive than this paper cover. The Dutch edition follows the same format as Blomster Mandala with a lovely hardback cover, beautiful black binding, gold foil lettering there and gold on the back. So a beautiful cover with a different design on it than what Vivi has in comparison there. And when you open it up, the Dutch edition follows the same format as our other Swedish books from Hanna Karlsson, for example, with this lovely matte black protective paper, whereas the cardcover book doesn't have that. Now you will notice here that the front page is really close to the binding, and over here it opened up perfectly on the binding. So I was a little bit worried that the rest of the book may not be as good when I first seen that. But the good news is it really is only the front 2 pages. So in Vivi we start off with the little printouts over here and then that title page. But in the Dutch edition we start out with that, and then we have the little cute characters that we had from Vivi over here with the addition of these 2 cute little kitty cats. I think they're kitty cats. So we've got a little variation there on that picture. Now when we turn over, this one is right up to the spine, as you can see, and that's what made me worried, that and the front title page, that this binding wouldn't be as good in the Dutch edition. You'll see over here in the card edition that it comes in just a fraction of a few millimeters so that you're not colouring up against the spine. But as I said straight from the beginning, you don't need to worry because the rest of the book does align properly on the spine, and it still has a little gap. And you'll see as we ease into the book, this page will become a little further away from the spine, but these first few images, if they do go whole page, they will abut the spine a little bit, whereas in the Swedish edition there's a little gap there. So now we can see that it's starting to lay down flat and be really easily accessible to that middle bit. The other thing is, in Vivi this image was a single page image, and in the Dutch edition it does go over the page and you've got the addition of this little house and whatnot there. And so we can see, just like in Vivi, that there's this little indentation here before they start the print work, so that you don't need to go close to the spine. You can see here we've also got a double page spread, and in Vivi this was a single page spread. So there's the one from Vivi, and you can see we've got more artwork added over the side here, but the cakes etc. are in the centre there of the spine. So we'll need to loosen it up, especially to colour in this tiny, tiny little itty bitty thing on top of the cake, the little cake topper. So in Vivi, this little scene over here was actually on another page. It was the page following, and so they've now incorporated it into the one double page spread. Paper is divine. It's the same paper, I'm pretty sure, that's in the Swedish edition of the book. It's lovely and thick, and most of the illustrations are single page. Now again, on Vivi, this is set back a little bit, and we can see in Droomreis that it's not. And this one in Vivi is a single page, and these parts have been added in on this other page. And again, some of them haven't been positioned that well. You've got tiny little elements to colour up along here, whereas in, the Vivi edition, you didn't have that. Now this is a lovely double page scene in the Dutch edition, and in Vivi, because it was all single pages, it wasn't presented like this. So this is what it looks like in Vivi. We've got the one page scene with half the animals and none of these lovely mushrooms. And in the Dutch edition, we've got the double page spread there. Now we've got a double page scene here, which obviously wasn't in Vivi. So in Vivi it was half of this. So this is all added in extra. Now in Vivi, the image is very similar, but the line work is bigger than the Dutch text. The only difference on this page is that in Vivi, obviously the words are in Swedish and they're in Dutch on this page. We finish up the Dutch edition of the book with that lovely protective page in the lovely black matte paper, whereas in the Swedish book we had these lovely little characters that have been incorporated now in the Dutch book at the front. Now the books are both the same size roughly, if you take into account the hardback on the Dutch edition. They've got the same paper pretty well. I'm pretty sure it's the same paper. It's a medium quality. It's lovely and thick. It's at the high end of medium. Vivi is full of single pages with a card cover. Droomreis, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, no doubt someone will correct me, has beautiful hardback cover and some double-sided pages. The binding is better in Vivi. It folds down lovely and flat, and there's been an allowance made so that the pictures fall short of the spine, whereas in the Dutch edition the binding's a little bit stiff, and in some images they are right up against the spine and might be a little bit tricky to colour in. I know people will ask me, so I'll just give you my opinion. If you collect the Swedish books and the binding is super important, I'd buy Vivi. But remember, buying from Sweden can be a little bit more expensive, whereas Droomreis is more readily available. It's got the beautiful hardback on it, so it'll look great up against Twilight Garden and your other English imprints, for example, of the book. And the hardback is just gorgeous, and the paper is great. There'll just be a couple of images that might be a little bit more trickier to colour. So if you're on your budget and you're not really fussed whether it's Swedish or Dutch or English or whatever version it is, then I'd go for this one because it's a beautiful book. So that's my view. Until next time, happy colouring.